When Guardians of the Galaxy first came out, I never expected it to be as good as it was. At the end of the day, the characters in the movie were pretty unknown, unless you're a big comic book fan of course. So I was pleasantly surprised with the movie when I saw it, and it immediately made my top 3 Marvel movies list. Now it's been demoted to top 5, but you get my point. Anyways, in this video I want to talk about why I think this movie is so great, by discussing the very compelling characters in the movie, in both how they were very well developed, and how their character arcs were still left incomplete to maintain intrigue for the following installments. First off, all the characters in this movie have experienced trauma in some way that has shaped the person that they've become, in good ways, but also in ways that make them flawed. Peter Quill saw his mother die of cancer as a kid, and was then abducted by the Ravagers and raised by them. The memory of his mother drives him to be a better person, but his poor upbringing has made him self-absorbed and driven by glory and wealth above all else. Gamora was taken from her homeland after a massive genocide, and raised by Thanos. This forced her to be colder and less trustful, but also made her the fierce warrior that she is. Rocket is a product of illegal experimentations, and although we don't get full insight on what exactly he's been through, we can guess it is the reason why he's as pragmatic and intelligent as he is. But it is also the reason that he's very insecure and untrusting. Drax saw his wife and daughter murdered by the main villain in the movie. He's motivated by his desire for revenge, but he's also blinded by it. And Groot? Groot's just Groot. Actually, I say that, although Groot seems very passive and simple-minded, he's a complex character, and that shows with his relationship with Rocket, but also with his relationship with the rest of the Guardians. But more on that in a bit. Why did I bring up their past? Of course to emphasize their strength and their shortcomings, but also to establish that they're all the same. They're all good people, maybe not on the surface, but deep inside, and they're very flawed due to their past, and the Infinity Stone brings them together by sheer coincidence, but they stay together because they understand each other. There's mutual respect there, but not only do they understand each other, these flawed characters, even though they're not perfect themselves, by definition, they push each other to be better people, and help each other get over their past that still has a stranglehold on their character. And this is portrayed brilliantly in the movie, because even though there are a lot of characters, the relationship dynamics between each and every one of them is rich, and it makes for very organic and interesting character development for all of them. So first I want to talk about the relationship dynamics between Gamora and Quill, which is a huge driver in how both characters develop throughout the movie. So as we said, Quill is selfish and Gamora is cold, but this is just the outside layer that is there as a defense mechanism, brought on by the trauma that was inflicted on both characters. In reality, both characters are much more than that. Quill is a character with a capacity for good, and we see that displayed repeatedly, while Gamora, although she hides under this armor of coldness, she's an emotional creature like everyone else, and that was the importance of the relationship between Gamora and Quill. They're there to challenge each other. They know that the other can be more. Gamora sees potential in Quill, and is angry at him for being selfish, while Quill sees more in Gamora. He knows that this coldness is just a shell that she uses for protection, and that she's much more emotional and complex. And this relationship dynamic is so perfectly portrayed in the movie, as we see them slowly but surely change each other for the better. Quill acts selflessly more than once, displayed with him sacrificing himself for her, and also reaching out for the stone knowing he can't hold it, whilst Gamora starts opening up a bit, and we see that in the speech when she says, "I have lived most of my life surrounded by my enemies. I would be grateful to die surrounded by my friends." And of course in the dance scene with Quill, which didn't end too favorably for him, but baby steps, you know, Rome wasn't built in a day. Anyways, Quill doesn't only challenge Gamora, he also challenges Rocket and vice versa. Rocket, like Gamora, has created this rough exterior, which is also a byproduct of his traumatic past. His creators torturing him has made it hard for him to develop friendships. He pushed everyone away because of his insecurity and lack of identity, and of course his lack of trust in anyone other than Groot. And here's where Quill comes in, because off the bat, Quill gives Rocket a reason to trust him. And what am I referring to? The prison scene, when Quill goes out of his way to save Gamora from Drax. This was just one of many times that Quill did something to gain Rocket's trust. That scene where he sacrifices himself for Gamora was also very impactful on Rocket's relationship with Quill, but also his relationship with the team, because he finally had someone else other than Groot to trust. Now on the other hand, because of Rocket's many outbursts, Quill is forced to take on a leadership role in the team to keep everyone together and help them accomplish their mission. And this was best portrayed in the bar scene when they were fighting, and Quill had to come in and be the voice of reason. Or of course when they were on the ship making their plan, and again Rocket was being pessimistic. Or maybe you could say realistic in their plan's chances of success, and Quill rallied them together and inspired them with what I thought was a good speech. So you see, Rocket opens up more and lets go of his lack of trust because of Quill, and on the other hand, Quill is forced to step up because of Rocket's presence. Next up is the relationship between Drax and pretty much the rest of the team, because Drax clashes with almost all of them, and he almost gets them killed on nowhere after calling in Ronan. His desire for revenge blinds him completely, and you can see that this changes in the end as he realizes the errors of his ways, and although he still wants vengeance, he also sees the bigger picture more clearly as he realizes the value of working as a team and learning to channel his anger in a more productive way. Drax also learns to understand other people's different perspectives, and here of course I'm talking about Gamora, because in the beginning he sees her as an enemy because of her involvement with Thanos, but as the movie progresses, he learns to understand her situation and even sees her as a friend, along with the rest of the Guardians. Groot's character arc is pretty flat, but of course his relationships with the other characters are crucial for the story. Him saving Drax, in an act of complete heroism, sacrificing himself for the team. But forget all of that, because his relationship with Rocket is by far the most compelling. Because as I mentioned before, Rocket isn't trusting of anyone other than Groot, and I believe that without Groot, Rocket wouldn't trust anyone else. Groot, like Quill, serves to remind him that goodness still exists, and we know how much he needs that because of how cynical he is. But not only that, his friendship and love for Groot serves to remind us and remind Rocket himself that he's still an emotional being, even behind all that tough guy bravado that he portrays. Because Rocket is clearly hurt by something in his past, doesn't want him to open up in fear of being hurt again. And that's where Groot comes in, because he does challenge that, as Rocket clearly cares for him. And although there is a lot of overcoming of trauma to do on Rocket's end, Groot and now the Guardians are having him make steps in the right direction. So we can see that the movie develops the characters very well and in such an interesting way. But what the movie does perfectly is leaving a lot of branches open for the next movie to maintain the intrigue of the watchers. Because at the end of the movie, there's still so much to be discovered about all the characters, and although they've made leaps in overcoming their trauma-induced character flaws, there are still remnants of these very flaws, and so much is yet to be explored of the past of each character. Peter Quill's relationship with the Ravagers and the origin of his ancestry and his father. It also leaves huge room for Peter's development in terms of his leadership, because although he's made strides in that field, there's still so much for him to learn. Gamora's relationship with her father and her sister are also set up very well, and left open to the intrigue of the audience to explore in the following movies. What happened with her and Thanos on one end, and why her relationship with her sister is the way it is. I stressed how Rocket opens up due to his relationship with Groot and Quill, but at the end, he's still a character with many flaws that he's yet to move past from. He remains riddled with insecurity and prone to many outbursts due to his lack of identity and his stature, which gives him what seems like Napoleon syndrome. These flaws are also due to his past, which is open to exploration. Drax's character arc is also certainly not finalized, as although he does get some sort of closure, it is evident that he's plagued by thoughts of the past, and he's still to some extent driven by his desire for revenge. This of course leaves room to explore Drax's past, while also teasing a matchup with the Mad Titan. Lastly, on to Groot. Having him sacrifice himself and be reborn again as baby Groot was a genius move. Firstly, because it rejuvenates the character, because I suspect the I am Groot thing would have gotten real old by the second movie, and I realize his linguistic skills haven't improved, but his character has changed, and it gives it a different spin. Secondly, because it was a genius marketing move. The number of Groot products that were made was incredible, and this of course is secondary to the actual plot and character development. We don't want to be promoting pointless cash grabs, but it worked, and it also made them some money, so you can't fault it. So like I said, this is one of my favorite Marvel movies. The characters are masterfully written, and they make the movie what it is. And it's not perfect by any means. There's a reason I don't talk about Ronan, but it's still absolutely great. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you want more, and I'll see you in the next one.